What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon466Cards, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the different tiers of sports cards. And this started with Neo Cards and Comics and a video he made a little while back about the Jayson Tatum Green Prizm rookie card. And first off, again, I want to give a shout out to Neo. He does a lot of great content, a lot of thoughtful content, and not the type of content that is always up in arms about stuff. I find him to be very both logical, insightful, but also level-headed. He doesn't get too caught up in being outraged and being just upset all the time. He's upset, but in certain videos, but I feel like it's justified. Whereas he tries to take a much bigger picture approach. So just shout out to him and his channel. So the idea for his video is that Jayson Tatum's rookie cards, there's like the high-end stuff, right? That is kind of unattainable for most people. But then for that next tier, that middle class, upper middle class, second tier, whatever you want to call it, a card like the Green Prizm Jayson Tatum PSA 10 might be the type of card that is able to stand the test of time. As you can see by the title, can this type of sports card stand the test of time, as opposed to the traditional thinking of a silver prism, right? And because of both the eye appeal and the pop count. So let's take a look at that, right? You can see here the Green Prizm looks gorgeous in a PSA 10. Pop 179 is a relatively low, sells for a little over 2K. The silver prism does not look nearly as good, right? You compare this to this, it's not close. The green looks way better with almost perfect color match compared to the silver. As I said, the PSA 10 pop is 179. The silver pop is 833, so about 4x, a little over 4x the green. So the green is already in short supply, looks better. And then in terms of pricing, you can see here, it's a little over $700 for the silver versus a little over 2K for the green. So even though there's only a quarter of them, it's only 3 times the price. So it seems already mismatched a little bit, right? But the idea here is that over the long run, the Green Prizm will be the card that is desired and wanted to be collected by collectors because this looks better. It's more rare than this card, right? Than the silver. And I generally agree with him. The premise is, I generally agree with the premise that the green will do better in the long run than the silver. Having said that, I did own 2 of these PSA 10 Green Prizms for the very reasons that Neo talked about. And I did eventually sell them about a year ago. I made a video about it, and you can watch in the, I'll link to it in the description below. You can watch to understand why I sold it, the analysis that drove that decision. Moving along, going back to this card, the idea that this is a second tier card or a card for the more common collector that's somewhat attainable, even though it is, 2K plus. The assumption behind that is that this falls under the high-end tier. This is like that second middle class, upper middle class tier that I talked about. But that got me to thinking, if this is the second tier, this is that next level of Jayson Tatum card, how many high-end cards are there before we get to this card, right? How many Jayson Tatum high-end cards are there? And so I decided to put that list together, and it took way more time than I will care to admit. What I've done, I went to Cardboard Connection, I went through all of the brands, and I calculated based off of their serial number. I only took serial number cards with the exception of one, which we'll talk about. I added up all the cards to count how many high-end cards there actually are out there. And the general premise is that anything that's a 1 of 1, I included right off the bat. And then after that, it was generally low serial numbered cards or cards that are obviously recognized as higher end cards. So for example, for Don Russ, I only have 4 cards. It's the 4 black cards, or the 4 1 of 1 cards. So it's the Press Proof Black, Rookie Dominator Signatures black, Rookie Kings black, and the Rookies black. I didn't look at any of the golds or any of that stuff. I just took, this is Don Russ, it's not even Optic, which is down here. We're just gonna look at the 4 1-of-1s and move on. For Optic, I did the black, the gold vinyl, then the green out of 5, the gold out of 10, the fast break black out of 1, and the gold out of 10, and then all the rookie signature 101s plus the green and golds, and on we go, right? And so for a product like Optic, there are a lot more. You can see here, there's 99 total cards here. Compared to Absolute, there's 3. It's just the 3 1-of-1s. The 3 signature patch 1-of-1s. And then for Extension, which is a brand I wasn't even aware about, there's only the 2. It's the 1-of-1s. And we do this for every single brand that was made in 2017 by Panini. So we get Chronicles, Contenders, Cornerstones. The one exception here is the Downtown. Even though it's not numbered, Downtown is obviously very much desired by collectors. So based off of the pop count, I made a guess. This was probably a little low, but I guessed it at about 75 for the pop count. And then we continued on from there. There's Court Kings, Crown Royal, Dominion, and Case. And then we get to the big stuff, right? What you would probably consider a high end, all the flawless stuff. So for the flawless stuff, I have a total of 244 cards. You can see even the base diamond cards are very highly regarded. I've made some videos about that in the past. But there's the autographs, there's patch autos, horizontal patch autos, vertical patch autos, the championship tags, logo men's, signature materials, star swatch, championship tags, rookie patches, which I just took the 101 and all that kind of stuff. Then there's Immaculate. I'm not going to go through all these. Impeccable. And then NT. You can see a big whole list of NT. And so we go through this whole list. And then the one thing I should talk about is Prizm. So what I did is I took the green, anything that's basically 25 or less in terms of serial number. So the green Pulsar, the Moja, red Pulsar, which I've seen in person. The red Pulsar looks amazing. The gold, the red shimmer, black, green, black, and all these other 1-of-1s, right? You go through this whole list. So if I were to first have you guess how many 1-of-1s of Jayson Tatum from 2017 there are, what would your guess be? This whole list. The answer here is 156. Keep in mind, this is 2017, before Panini just started printing and printing and printing until the printers broke. That's somewhat low. 156 is pretty low. But what's the total number of cards once you include all the other cards that I included, right? All the different jersey patch autos from Spectra, Opulence, Noir, NT, Immaculate, Flawless, Encased. The total number is 2,323. You can see the biggest one here is National Treasures. You can see next up is Flawless, as you would have expected. And then there's Spectra here, Immaculate here, Court Kings here, and then, Prizm isn't that high. It's only got 125. But across all these brands, there's, 29 brands? 29 brands? There are 2,323. So there's 80 per brand on average. And so that upper tier of high-end cards isn't small. Like, there's 2,300 high-end cards, and I'm not even counting other things that were somewhat low serial numbered for other brands, right? I'm only, again, if you look at this list, like, I was pretty conservative, what I considered high-end. And so the question I have is that too many for a Jayson Tatum? And how those, what was the pop count? 100 and something, 170 cards in that green Prizm PSA 10 pop count probably doesn't even slot directly below these 2,323 cards. There's probably some other cards that I did not include that slot below that. And so while I believe the logic of the green Prizms in a PSA 10 are much more likely to do better in the long run than the silvers, the question is, are there too many high-end cards for those green prisms to maintain their price? And I would argue, and one of the reasons, for other reasons that I've talked about in that video when I sold the green prisms, I think there's still too many high-end cards for Jayson Tatum for the green prism PSA 10 to maintain their price based off of this analysis, excluding also the other reasons that I talked about in that other video, which again I will link to in the description below. I think that's where I'm landing with this, is that the number of high-end cards is too high. Pardon the pun. Too many high-end cards, and that's why I've really stayed away from anything ultra modern, especially anything from 2020 onwards, unless it's something very specific or unique. Because this is 2017. This is before Panini started paralleling every single day until like the cows come home, right? This is before, I think Select had 36, 37 one of ones in I think 2020 or 2021 Select, right? Like, if it was possibly a problem in 2017, it's definitely a problem in 2019, and for sure a problem in 2020, 2021, and 2022. And so my fear is that there's so many of these high-end cards that there's enough to go around for most people, and that it doesn't just cover the high-end consumer, it covers the high-end and like the next tier down, and it removes and eliminates the demand for cards like this green prism, and especially so in 2020 and beyond. So when I think about players like Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey, those kind of players in the 2020 and beyond, like, I would be extremely cautious about buying any of their cards, because I don't think the market fully realizes how much stuff, just pure quantity, is out there, and then also how much quantity is out there of the supposed high-end, high-quality cards. And I think the combination of those two things makes it really dangerous to step into anything from 2020 onwards until we have probably another year to watch it all flush out. And I'm doing this mostly about monetary value. If you want to collect a card, you want to buy it because it looks pretty, it makes you happy, like, go nuts. But I think for most people, like, you want to buy it both because you enjoy the card, but also because you think that there is potential for the card to go up. And I'm thinking, based off of this for just 2017, I would probably guess this number is multiples higher for 2020 and onwards. And part of the reason why I didn't do it for 2020 onwards is because I knew it was going to take way longer, and I had no desire to do that. And the Tatum was a good jumping off point from Neo's video. So that's the premise of this video, is I think there's too many high-end cards. And so if there's too many high-end cards, then what you might consider to be high-end cards might actually seep down into that next tier of upper middle class cards. And everything gets pushed down a little bit. And when things get pushed down, that rankings list, or that like ladder, or that pyramid, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to, imagine in your mind of how these things sit, as things get pushed down the ladder, that means the demand is less, and then the prices will be less, and that means there's more room to fall. And that's my concern with a bunch of these cards from the ultra modern era. So I've rambled on for quite a bit. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you think this is an issue with ultra modern cards. I've talked about Tatum here from 2017, but I would say if it's possibly a problem for 2017, it's definitely a problem for 2019, 2020 and onwards. So would love to hear your thoughts. If you agree with me, if you think I'm out to lunch, if you think I'm full of it, I don't know, or I don't, you don't agree with what I'm saying, let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear your comments. Thank you as always for listening and watching, and I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.